What's up, you guys? Welcome to episode 450 of the Establishment NBA podcast. I'm Mike Gallagher here with Drew Dinkmeyer to talk about what else? The NBA playoffs. We've had some wild games. We've had some close ones. We've had some blowouts, some crazy blowouts. Road teams still kind of getting it done for the most part. Indiana had their response in the latest game that we saw there. So, Dink, have you been enjoying the playoffs? How's it going?
Yeah, for sure. It's been, for the most part, very competitive series. We had a chance at all four series being 2-2 after four games, which would have been very exciting. We'll see if Golden State at home tonight and Boston on the road can even their series. But I think the basketball has been good. We have had some blowouts. We've had some regression of the mean on some shooting performances for some teams. Indiana refuses to. We'll talk about that more later. But yeah, it's been generally, I think, good playoffs. I do think, and one of the things that we'll talk about, I do think the schedule of the playoffs has been impactful in these games, along with the officiating, which has been more like swallow the whistle, kind of let a lot of physicality. I think that's led to some 90s throwback looking basketball games, which I don't know. A lot of casual people say that the NBA, there's no defense and they want to see more defense and stuff. I don't know how much they're liking the game compared to some of the other higher scoring playoff games, but yeah, it's been a good playoffs on the whole. And the officiating, although different than the regular season, has been largely consistent across playoff series. I don't think it's been too different across the playoff series at this point, which is mostly what you can ask for.
Yeah, a lot of defensive wrinkles, a lot of zone, which we could talk about the Denver zone that really screwed up OKC in a second here. So let's start there and talk about a very big and almost uncharacteristic based on how their earlier loss went. To the two losses, I should say, where they just kind of folded late, and OKC didn't fold late. They came up really big. Joker, we're going to talk about him for sure. But yeah, I thought that the response from SGA hit some big buckets after kind of choking earlier. But I thought the biggest adjustment, and really has been arguably the second best player in the series. I would say Aaron Gordon's the best player in this series. Caruso. I mean, Caruso had so many big plays in this game when he picked Jamal clean, got Russ to get a foul on him as well. Caruso kind of changed the game. They closed with him over Lou Dort. Thought that was a really nice, risky move by Mark Daigneault that he almost would never have done, but he did with that. And then Casey Wallace, I mean, hit so many big shots. So the role players really came up big. But yeah, SG kind of just enough here. But how else did OKC get this win to tie it up 2-2?
Yeah, sort of. Going back, obviously Denver holds serve at home in an overtime win. When we last checked in on the series, it was 1-1. So Denver takes game 3 at home in the overtime win. Aaron Gordon continues to come up with huge clutch shots, hitting the 3-pointer to tie the game, and ultimately the game gets into overtime, and then OKC kind of folds. I think it's interesting in that all of the playoff narratives that we kind of lean on, role players play better at home than on the road. You want to condense your rotations. You want to play your best 6 or 7 guys in the playoffs. As series get deeper, you tend to see rotations condense more and more. OKC was like, throw them all out the window. We're going to play a little bit deeper. We're going to rely on our depth. I think part of that was the scheduling, which became a prominent talking point after just an impossibly ugly first quarter of basketball that finished 17-8 at the end of the first quarter. But these two teams had played late Friday night, the late slot, and then that game goes into overtime, and then the early slot on Sunday. Why they need to be the early slot on Sunday, obviously TV partners want that to be the prime game, the focal point of the game, but ultimately led to a very, very sloppy first half of basketball and then a better second half of basketball, which is what players have said in the past, that with back-to-backs and stuff, they tend to start sluggish and then kind of catch their breath during the game. But the Caruso adjustment, I think they've been waiting for this. They've been looking to do this. I think Dort had done a good enough job on Jamal Murray that he had kind of held Caruso off in the first 3 games. But Dort, his shot selection in this game was atrocious. I mean, he was just launching early shot clock threes, kind of at whim. He ended up going 2 for 10. He got 10 3-pointers off in 19 minutes. And I know they're leaving Lou Dort. They're not leaving him 10 3-pointers in 19 minutes open. That's not the kind of shooting space that he has. So I thought his trigger was way too quick for a team that was short points. It was a hard way to figure out how to score points in the first half. And I think that opened the door for Caruso closing. He was exceptional in this one. Casey Wallace really turned the game around kind of early in the fourth quarter with his play. And Casey Wallace a guy that we've both been very, very high on, and that we've talked about, like, if he was not on the Thunder, we'd be talking about this as one of the best young players kind of up and coming in the league, but he's hidden on the Thunder in this bench role. And here he is, 21-year-old, comes in to the second half of the game, makes a huge impact, plus 12 in his 23 minutes, 11 points, 5 boards, 2 assists, 2 steals, 3 for 3 from 3, just nails in every aspect of the game. So yeah, they got the role players stepping up in a way that they needed to, just like Denver did in Game 3 when Jokic wasn't at his best. SGA and Jokic have both not been at their best. SGA was better in the fourth quarter in this game, and in Game 3 it was Aaron Gordon who came up with big play after big play. In this Game 4, it was Christian Brown and Aaron Gordon who were coming up with big play after big play for the Nuggets, trying to keep them in it. So it's interesting that in this era that we talked about with the new CBA kind of emphasizing depth a little bit more, we are actually seeing this play out in the playoffs a little bit as well, where the role players are having a bigger and bigger impact on series than they have kind of in the past. And the Game 4 was all about the role players with Denver and Oklahoma City.
Yeah, Hartenstein I thought gave him pretty good minutes as well. But yeah, those Kaysen threes, like, did those even touch rim? Like, they were like all net, just in huge spot for it as well. So for him to kind of get more minutes than Dort, like Dort getting cut out is a huge deal. Dort on the road is kind of a narrative. I'm not a big home road splits guy, but at home he shot 45% from 3. On the road he shot 35% over the course of the season. So that was kind of interesting to see how that happened. And Mark Daigneault does almost never like pulls out the Lou Dort card. Like, he almost always plays it. And Jamal was not playing well. Jamal did get some pretty good looks overall and just couldn't get him a drop. But I thought that was a very ballsy move that really paid off overall. But then, the Denver role players is one big story. Aaron Gordon, like I said, has probably been the best player in the series. And like, saying it's not Jokic is kind of wild. And what's up with, I mean, it's fair to question Jokic. I mean, he's not been getting to the basket as much. The OKC's like letting him shoot jumpers all the time. Is he getting tired? Obviously, had to miss free throws late. That he's been a little bit lower there free throw percentage wise. I think he's at like 75% in the playoffs. Let me get that real quick. 77 this round. Yeah, he's 74%. So that's not good for him. So yeah, what's up? Is he just getting tired? Is it OKC matchup? Is it all these minutes? Obviously the big grind, 7-game series against the Clippers. Like, what's up? Why is Joker not performing at an MVP like level right now?
Yeah, I think all of the above. I think they're all prominent factors in Jokic's underperformance so far. Has not shot the ball as effectively. His touch around the paint has not looked the same. Usually he's pretty money on any of these floaters, and just in general, like has seemed bothered by Isaiah Hartenstein's size. And then they have a lot of length that they're bringing at him too, and kind of collapsing on the paint, which had homegrown with Isaiah Hartenstein. That's giving him some problems. I'm sure fatigue is a factor. He's, been one of the most, well-conditioned athletes in the NBA over the last 5-6 years. I still remember that Portland Denver like triple OT game that Jokic played like 60 minutes and still like was rolling towards the end of that game. Like, he usually does not get tired. I do think the schedule has been daunting. It's not just the, back-to-back nature of the Friday late to Sunday early. Everybody had to deal with that. But OKC had another week off of rest prior to that, and OKC's younger as well. And OKC had the end of the season that they were able to take some time off. Jokic had that like one 10-day stretch during the end of the season where he got a little bit of a break. But then remember, there was the firing of Michael Malone. There's a lot of like emotional energy spent around kind of the end of the season for Nikola Jokic as well. And so maybe that's playing a factor. I think in general, he's just not playing well. And he said that. He said, after Game 3 that he felt like he was the worst player on the court. We'll see if he's able to, bounce back in terms of the efficiency, because if Jokic was playing well this series, Denver would be up 3-1. There's pretty much no doubts about that. They went in with a great opportunity going into the fourth quarter, up 6 points on OKC, having all the momentum from playing a great third quarter, and they were not able to close the deal. And Jokic was not good in the first quarter or the fourth quarter of this game. Those were the 2 quarters that Denver scored a combined 26 points in those 2 quarters. So they absolutely need more from Nikola Jokic. I think it's going to be very hard to beat OKC without your best players playing well. And Denver's been close. They've been really close to landing some knockout punches here. If they got normal Jokic, they'd be up 3-1. So I think it's a testament to the championship mentality of this like Denver core 6 that they're basically playing. It's basically a 6-man rotation, a little bit of Peyton Watson, a little bit of Julian Strother last night. or yesterday afternoon. They are, those 6 guys are all playoff caliber, playoff tested guys. Even Russ, who comes under a lot of criticism, Russ's
Mm-hmm.
history in the playoffs has been mixed at best, but he has really settled into this role of, I'm going to defend my butt off, and I'm going to crash the glass, and I'm going to try to wreak havoc defensively, and offensively I'm just going to take open shots when they come to me. And Russ has played within control, and he's been good this series as well. So I think just generally the Nuggets are getting, or I should say, Russ hasn't been good this series. He's been good in the playoffs. This series he struggled a little bit, and certainly in Game 4. But I think in general, the Nuggets have played well. They've shown that they belong versus OKC. I think this is raisings. I think it's a question of, do you walk away from the series with more question marks about OKC in the playoffs after last year with Dallas, or do you walk away from the series saying, like, Denver, anytime they're in the playoffs, they're going to be an incredibly difficult out for any of these teams? And I'm not sure on that, because I do think there's some things from OKC in late game execution and stuff during the series that has been frustrating for me. I really feel like they're just so reliant on Shea to put on a Batman cape late in games and close things out, when they have many other options that they can go to, but they just don't seem comfortable going to them. And so I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Like, do you think, because we both thought OKC was in a position of power this series. I think you took them in 5, I took them in 6. Kind of giving a little bit more credit to Denver. They easily could be down 3-1 right now. So what's your impression of what this means for OKC this series, or have you been more impressed by Denver than disappointed in OKC?
I think it's more impressed by Denver. SGA certainly missing some shots, could get some, but like I said, I think Aaron Gordon's impact on this series is like why this is 2-2. Obviously, he's hit the big shots, but he's played pretty good defense on J-Dub. J-Dub's been a little consistent offensively, good defensively for J-Dub, and their defense has been pretty good. So I think that's kind of the formula they had going into it. They've got to make shots. They're getting a pretty good amount of open looks overall, and just not getting them unless it's Case and Wallace. But yeah, I kind of just give it to, like, the same reason why I thought the Clippers were going to. I thought just Denver down the stretch is just too good sometimes. And like you were saying, Joker not having it definitely hurt them. So yeah, they were almost in a position to be 3-1. So I'm not overly concerned. Credit to Adelman too. Like I talked about the zone defense in the third quarter, that was almost what swung the game for them. Yeah. And to see them struggle when they have that much firepower on offense, and they have the ability to get in the pass, get in the lane with drives, have the shooting as well. So it's a little bit surprising to see them get slowed down by zone, but they could take away transition. I think they're in a pretty good spot. Just a little bit of missed shot stuff, but in it, like I said, credit to Dagnall, who I think is an awesome coach, pushed a lot of the right buttons there. And yeah, it's just tough to beat Denver.
I guess of the teams remaining, which we still have, we still have 8 teams remaining, so it's a lot to rank them. But 2 minutes to go, game is tied. Who do you feel best about in this playoffs, and where does OKC rank?
It's a tough one. Probably in the bottom half. Is Steph back in this scenario?
Yeah. Can assume full health for all teams.
Full health. Okay. Yeah, probably in the bottom half. Boston's pretty low. Boston does not have a good late game offense. Almost like Denver would be number 1, I'd say.
I think Denver would be number 1, and I'd agree with that. Yeah. I think I'd still have OKC like 3 or 4, but yeah, but I will say that's more of a testament to I just feel like they have a lot of different options, and they just need to start using them. And Shea is obviously very, very good normally in late game situations. Has not been as great this playoffs in late game situations. Did close this one out though. Did play a good fourth quarter, struggled in the third quarter a bit. But I would like to see, they had a couple of possessions during the second half that things looked so easy for them, and I feel like they didn't go back to any of those actions. So bringing J-Dub into the action as a screener, they just don't use very much. They had a lot of success with Chet Holmgren in the dunker spot, kind of coming down from the corner, basically when there was a hedge or a trap on SGA, get the ball into the middle and then get the ball up to Chet for alley-oops, whether I think it was Hartenstein who threw one, and I think it might have been J-Dub who threw another. But those were I thought that was okay, that's an unlock. Let's just keep going to that over and over and over again. And they would get away from it. And I don't think Denver has good answers with the zone stuff at closing those pockets of Chet around the rim. And so I really
Mm-hmm.
feel like that's where you need to start attacking, like get the ball into the middle and get the ball lobbed up to Chet, because
Yep.
Jokic anticipated a few and knocked one or two away for steals, which Jokic is so good at reading possessions and getting his hands in the action. But I thought that was something that like was relatively easy for them. And then I also thought like J-Dub in the first quarter looked like he had more juice than anybody else. He looked like he was rested compared to all
Yeah.
the other guys making steals and blocks. And then, you know, middle of the game, he kind of just floated away. And then at the very end of the game, he like catches the ball in the perimeter and attacks a closeout instantly and gets to the lane and gets to the rack and for an easy layup. And I was just like, where's that been? Where's that? Instead of like, it seems like OKC when they in Denver has done a great job at bringing sort of late help on SGA to sort of like make SGA a little bit out of rhythm, just a little bit second guessing of like, oh, should I pass this ball to the open shooter? But I think too many times OKC is positioning that one pass away, which has often been J-Dub. And it's just J-Dub like ready to take a shot instead of attack the basket. I'd like to see J-Dub attack the basket because in those positions when the whole defense is like focused, you basically get a triangle that's built focused of attention towards SGA on the other side of the ball. You're getting a whole lane to drive at for J-Dub. And I'd like to see more of that aggressiveness. But I also thought like Christian Brown's been fantastic defensively, and Jamal Murray's held up defensively in his possessions against Shea in a way that I didn't expect him to as well. I don't know if that's like some Team Canada having history of like guarding each other and different stuff, but I thought he's held up decently as well. I thought the Nuggets would have like no answers for Shea in this series, and they've done way better than I expected with some of these like scheme-based decisions, late help, zone, different things. And so I agree that there should be credit to Dave Edelman for the way that he's coached defensively this series.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with you. SGA has run bad on potential assists, 20 potential assists per game, converting just 7. So they're getting like I said, they're getting pretty good looks, just sort of not dropping them. And to go back to your question, which was a great one, I've got my answer now on like late game offense. I'd go Denver Warriors with Steph, Pacers, Knicks. Knicks just have won a lot of close games. I don't know if I buy it, but like, hey, they've been doing really well.
It's just Brunson's been so good in those situations.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'd probably go. I'd probably put Minnesota last. I don't really trust Minnesota late in games.
Yeah, I cannot believe where we've gotten with the Cavs. That like.
Yeah, I don't. Cavs
coming out of the regular season, I would have felt very good about the Cavs with the stuff that they run with some of the motion and some of the different actions that they get, but. Their offense, we haven't had a lot of close and late situations, but when we have, it's been messy for sure.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure. So yeah, where are you at here? Any adjustments? We talked. Does Lou Dort still start? We didn't talk about MPJ. Like MPJ looked really bad on Sunday. Maybe it was like an early game thing.
So good in game 3, though. So good in game 3. And we have to remember that, we didn't recap game 3 of this one as well, but MPJ just a superhuman effort in game 3 and is still playing through a lot, was still very impactful in this game, but didn't shoot the ball well. And they need him to shoot the ball well. They didn't really get good shooting from anybody but Aaron Gordon, but they got attacking and getting to the free throw line. They shot 36 free throws in game 4 compared to OKC's 26. Still only 72%, disappointing. And yeah, Jokic missed the 2 late game free throws, but it was only 11 for 14 overall. It was just the timing of those free throws in that one that were disappointing. But I think Denver's right here in this. Denver has nothing left in adjustments. Like they're playing their 6 guys as much as they possibly can. They're mixing up some zone. They're mixing up some late help. They're trying to kind of make things a little bit different from, I should say, nothing from a rotation perspective to do adjustments. Obviously, there will be minor adjustments on scheme and different things like that. But I don't think there's too much to do. I think it's like we need Jokic to make his shots, and we need Jokic to play as if he's the best player in the world. And if he does, like we're in position and we've got a chance, as long as we can keep disrupting the rhythm of OKC's offense, which we've been able to do. If OKC shoots the lights out, they have no chance. Like that, it's just the nature of the game and the gap in the talent in the rosters. But yeah, I'm expecting this one to go 7, and I'm expecting OKC to close it out in 7.
Yeah, free throws. They scored 17 of their 36 in their first half from the line, so that like really kept them in it. And then just a couple, like obviously they were missing so many threes. Denver was 0 of 15. We always talk about corner threes with OKC.
Yeah.
0 of 15 in the corners, 11 to 28 above the break in game 4. So yeah, definitely. I still kind of think the OKC in 6. I mean, I do kind of want to be. I know Zach Lowe said like we got to get game 7 here, but this is. I mean, we knew this is going to be a fun series. Just the lack of OKC shot making and just like really stalling out. We don't really see OKC have these like routine, like, oh my god, we're going another 3 minutes without a bucket. Like that seems to happen way more often in this series. But credit to Denver, credit to Joker, credit to Aaron Gordon, Brown, all that stuff we talked about there. Let's go to the other Western Conference series here, as we knew Steph Curry being out was going to impact this thing. And really, this game was close, and it was close for a reason that we would have never thought about a week ago, and it's Jonathan Kuminga and Jimmy Butler. I think that's kind of the big question, like how much Jonathan Kuminga can like save the Warriors here, because they did not get any offense, 0 threes in the first half, just 5 attempts. Pajimski's really slowed down here. That's the question. How can the Warriors get to like 100 unless it's Kuminga, who Steve Kerr said he played the game of his life last time? But yeah, where do the Warriors go for offense against a really good Wolves defense?
That's the only 2 places they can go.
Yep.
I think what we saw from the moment Steph Curry got hurt in game 2 through game 3 is it's just such a drag for Golden State to get good shots at the rim if it's not through Butler or Kuminga. And I actually was shocked at the lack of help that Minnesota was bringing when Jimmy would get favorable matchups on him. So Jimmy was like killing Gobert. Like anytime he would get Gobert on him, they were just not bringing any help. Like I think Jaden, it's fine if you've got Jaden out there on an island, that's fine. But anybody else, I think at this point, send some help, because like make Golden State shooters beat you, and just don't send help from Hield. Like send help from anyone else. Make Pajemski or Gary Payton, or when Moses Moody's out there, or Dre. Make those guys make shots. Like I don't know that they can consistently knock down shots. And so the only saving grace that Golden State had in this game, I thought, was that Minnesota decided to like basically say, our strategy is take away the threes entirely, and we're going to make Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kuminga try to beat us one-on-one all game. And Jimmy can do that. Kuminga, unknown. He played in a way that he could do that in this game. 30 points on 18 shots, 11 for 18 from the field. Those 2 guys in total were 22 for 44 from the field. The rest of the team was 13 for 37 from the field. So like it was, I mean, you look at this box score, and for Golden State, they shoot 10 for 23 from 3 overall, 43% in this one. That was with Kuminga shooting 3 for 4, Jimmy 2 for 4. So those guys are 5 for 8, and Buddy's 4 for 8. And then nobody else is taking threes, right? Like Dre 0 for 1, Pod's 1 for 4, Gary Payton 0 for 2. That's the only other threes that are taken. And to me, I think this is the easiest path for the Warriors to actually generate some offense, is like, don't let these other guys shoot. But Finch, much smarter person than me in terms of coaching basketball, had decided like, we're going to take the threes out. We're going to try to make this a big math advantage for us, and we're going to take a lot more threes. They took 34 compared to the Warriors 23, but the Warriors shot well. Kuminga and Butler played well. They shot 17 for 21 from the free throw line, 97 points. Like they played really well to get 97 points offensively. So it's just going to be such a drag to try to score points in this series. And if Finch is really going to keep the same sort of strategy in terms of taking away the 3-point line and just letting Kuminga and Butler try to score as much ISO as they can, I think you need a lot of Jonathan Kuminga, because there's nobody, the only guys that can create their own shot on this roster consistently are Jimmy Butler, Jonathan Kuminga, and you could maybe make a case for Pods and Hield. Like, maybe they can create a little, like Buddy with his movement can create some looks for himself. Pods can occasionally hit some pull-ups and stuff like that. But the rest of the guys who are out here, Looney, Dre, Trace Jackson Davis, Quentin Post, Pat Spencer, who like Guy Santos, they cannot create their own shots. So I think Kuminga and Jimmy Butler are the only people who can really create shots for other guys on the floor. So I think they have to be out there a ton.
Yeah, and to that point, when the Wolves are making a shot and the Warriors have to basically go against a set defense, they're at 0.87 per possession versus 1.18 off a miss. And the Wolves did turn the ball over a little bit. They kind of like had chances to like scrounge together enough offense and just didn't kind of have enough overall. But yeah, Pods has been terrible. He's 1 of 11 on pull-ups in this series, 28.8 effective field goal percentage. He's been terrible. Like, we always talk about Steph gravity affecting other players in a negative way. Obviously, the usage could help, but like Podziemski just has nowhere to go. He has Anthony Edwards like draped all over him for a lot of his possessions, and just again, like the Wolves being able to cut down transition and keep the Warriors in like a half court offense a little bit more often, really hurts guys like that. As well, we'll talk about Mikal Bridges and all that stuff for the Knicks too. But yeah, I mean, like you said, it just has to be Jonathan Kuminga. They've got nothing else. We saw his athleticism really come into the play, and I thought he was really good. Obviously, the points jump out. And then yeah, where else do the Warriors go here? I think the place they go to is like Draymond's got to be better about fouling. Obviously, it's tough to do that, but to pick up those fouls in the fourth quarter, third quarter, I think he had 4 in the second half. Yeah, and then starting lineup, anything else? Gary Payton, I thought was fine, but they have to win this with defense. So like personnel wise, what do they do?
If they have to win, if they are going to win these games, I think they got to be in the 80s and 90s somehow. Yep. They got to keep these games in the 80s and 90s somehow, and I think that's going to mean probably playing as much Draymond as you can, as much Jimmy as you can, and then if Kuminga's got it going, as much Kuminga as you can. And then from there, filling in the gaps, Podziemski, Hield, and Payton are the 3 other guys that they have some confidence in. Looney played fairly effectively in this game, and they have some confidence in him. But I think it's going to be tight on the whole. I think it was interesting that they found something. They felt like they found something with Trayce Jackson-Davis from an offensive standpoint, but then choose to just start him and play the 5-6 minute stints to start, which I would think he's least effective against Rudy Gobert, just in terms of what he brings to the table offensively. So I thought that was an odd decision, just in terms of when to get him out there. I would think it would make more sense to try to get him out there in the lineups that Gobert's not on the floor, but defensively, obviously that leaves him in space and with some struggles. But yeah, I think you'll see those main 6 or 7 with Looney and Payton being the 2. I guess Kuminga's off the bench. We'll see who they start. Yeah. But those 3 guys, along with the 4 starters, and they really need to get shooting from Podziemski and Hield. I don't know that you can expect Jonathan Kuminga to score 30 points on 18 shots again. I think that's unlikely. So if you get a normal or neutral shooting performance from Jonathan Kuminga, how do you score? You got to have Buddy and Podziemski knocking down shots.
Yeah, Jimmy's going to play a ton. That's kind of straightforward. We didn't even really talk about it, but 32 drives for Jimmy. That's like 50% more than SGA averages. So yeah, he'll have a big part there. And then they were putting Jimmy Lott and Gobert to kind of transition to the Wolves side. We talked about the Warriors, but gotta give some credit to the Wolves. And can't believe we're going to start with Julius Randle. My God, man, triple double played through him, 62 front court touches for him. They looked like a competent, organized offense, especially in the second half. Ant was popping off 28 in the second half for him. But yeah, Julius Randle, again, we were like, oh yeah, it was kind of a mirage. He was in such a good spot against the Lakers. Yeah. Here we are. He's been steady. We've been getting almost every game has been effective and not hurting. Sure, some losses, he had some bad games, but in general, the Wolves are and what we're going to talk about Cat. Julius Randle's playing way better than Cat is there. So what about Jules and Ant? Should know Ant did not look affected at all from that little tweak he had a couple games ago. He was ready to go, played the full second half as well.
Yeah, I thought Randle was obviously exceptional in this game. The box score speaks to it. I actually thought he really thrived on Draymond's foul trouble. Obviously, there were a couple bang calls that went his way in terms of getting fouls on Draymond, but I thought, from my vantage point watching the game, I thought Julius was going one-on-one against Draymond way too much. And then once Draymond got into foul trouble, in that that defender became like a Kuminga or a Looney or something like that, that felt much more comfortable to me. So I thought there was in the first half of the game, I thought there were too many try to just initiate contact, create space, fade away midi from Julius Randle against Draymond Green. And I don't like that offense for the Wolves. I think they can get better shots than that. So I'm still Julius was awesome, but I'm still if we get 35 minutes of Dre, are we going to get that Julius? I don't know. And I thought Dre was kind of goading him into that stuff. Hey, come on. You can't score on me one-on-one. Trying to get him into that type of game. I think that's Dre's mentality. He's trying to muck it up that way. I thought Anthony Edwards was too passive in the first half. Just in general, I did wonder in the first half if there were issues with the ankle, because he was just taking a ton of threes. And then in the second half, he had that dunk that really changed the momentum of the game naturally in the second half. And I think he got better at kind of attacking at the rim and finishing at the rim. I think that's going to be they don't have anybody that can stay in front of him. they've obviously Buddy's given it a good effort. Gary Payton is the guy that they have to do that. I thought Edwards has handled Payton with ease. I don't think Payton's
Hmm.
been any sort of disruption to Anthony Edwards at all in terms of getting to the rim. So I think, it's just for me, it's like, all right, Wolves, are you going to take this seriously and understand the consequences of if this gets to 6? You do not want this to get to 6 because game 6
Yep.
has a chance at Steph Curry potentially coming back after that like 3 or 4 days rest that they have in between 5 and 6. So like, are you gonna put your foot down on the pedal here in games
Hmm.
4 and 5? I think that's the big question mark for me with the Wolves because it is such a talent disparity right now for the Warriors, a team that was built entirely like almost all these pieces are better in a meaningful way with Steph Curry on the floor. Like Gary
Hmm.
Payton is not meant to play without Steph Curry on the floor. Quentin Post not meant to play without Steph Curry on the floor. So they are it's such a big talent disparity between the two. For me, is like, will the Wolves be happy just getting home court, or will they be ready to kind of put their foot on the throat of the Warriors in Game 4?
Yeah, and Steph just takes not just the shooting, but like he's such a good rim finisher. His defense is so underrated. He doesn't screw up that often defensively when he's like rotating. Yeah. We see a lot of players do that, like Jamal Murray, you name it. So yeah, I'm with you. Then just with the rest of the Wolves' depth, Dante DiVincenzo had another bad game. He's down to 38.5 true shooting. That's second lowest in the playoffs for guys with 20 plus games, 20 plus minutes, 4 games. Who's worse? Kyle Kuzma, of course. Yeah, so anything from him? Mike Conley, I thought, gave him pretty good minutes. Nikhil Alexander-Walker had one good game.
Necessary.
And it's been kind of quiet. Yeah, I thought Conley played a pretty sound game overall. But anything on the depth, Rudy Gobert not making a big impact. But I did want to note it was interesting that when the Wolves made their big run in the fourth, Gobert wasn't in, and I was like, are they going to go back to Gobert? And they did. They went back to Gobert to kind of close it out, to kind of hold down the fourth there. So yeah, how do you see the Naz Reid Gobert split, and then the other off guard Conley, Dante? I think those are the big rotation questions into this one.
Yeah, on the guard stuff, I think if they've made a decision that, from Golden State's perspective, that we're going to try to win this game scoring in the 80s or 90s, Chris Finch is kind of making the decision like, okay, we need to not turn the ball over offensively. Mm-hmm. Like we need to make every possession as hard as we possibly can for Golden State. Yes, like Jimmy can maybe occasionally hunt Mike Conley, but really like we can send help. We can get away from that. Like that's not that big of an issue. And they don't have multiple guys out there to really like try to take advantage of things. So I think this is a much better positioning for Mike Conley to continue to play upper 20s minutes. We talked about how when Steph Curry went out, that was a downgrade for Nikhil Alexander-Walker's stock the rest of the series. He played really well in game 2, shot the ball really well, and then got his minutes boosted there. I think that's questionable if he can continue to shoot the ball. But I thought Dante shot the ball, like the shots have looked fine. They've looked largely in rhythm. He just hasn't made them. I think that shooting can regress, but he had 2 offensive fouls in this game that were sort of haphazard and turnovers that I think Finch was like, no, we're not doing that. So 3 turnovers in 16 minutes, I think got him pulled off the floor. I think Conley's going to be asked to carry a little bit more weight just because it's like, okay, we need to just don't make things easy for Golden State, which means just don't turn the ball over, like get reasonably organized offensively. And like, we should be able to win this game on a math advantage by taking more threes and a talent advantage. So I think it's a better spot for Conley going forward. With the bigs, Gobert continues to play like not super aggressive offensively against the smaller lineups. And so there's going to be more rim pressure with Kuminga and Butler as opposed to Steph lineups. So defensively, I think Gobert's value is a little bit more than in the games where Steph is able to play. So I think they'll still probably try to close out with Gobert, but I think Naz Reid's shooting and floor spacing is going to be necessary if they really struggle offensively. And like, it's one of these things where if Minnesota is able to play from ahead, which they were able to play from ahead in the fourth quarter, they kind of secured that lead with like 4 or 5 minutes to go. I think Gobert came back in around that mark. I think Gobert can play when you're playing from ahead and you're trying to protect the lead. But if you're playing like close and tight and your offense is really struggling, like if Ant and Julius aren't generating the really good looks, then I think you're going to need Naz's spacing out there. So I kind of think those two are a little bit more of a coin flip, but I do think this is a better series going forward for Mike Conley right now. As long as Dante is, struggling to kind of turn the ball over, playing a little too fast, like just Mike Conley slows everything down, gets offense kind of organized, make sure the right people are getting the ball. Like I think those things are pretty necessary when Golden State's trying to really muck things up.
Yeah, just it's the Wolves, man. Like we always joke, don't Wolves it. Like don't Wolves it. Like
Yeah.
take care of the ball, get back on defense. Close out, do all the things you're structured to do. I think they're in a pretty good spot. So I'm pretty confident the Wolves. I think they're going to just get this the rest of the way, man. I just don't have any faith in the Warriors' offense right now, and I do think that the Wolves have enough. To stop them. And also, I was looking at the referee matchups for what it's worth here, and two of the three like lower foul calling refs are on this one. Two of the four, excuse me, are in this one. So it could be kind of a lower foul game, which I think is really good for the Wolves.
Always good for the Wolves. Always
yeah,
good for the
so-
Wolves. I mean, Dre lives to like test those boundaries, so it's good for Dre.
Yep.
But like Jimmy
Yep.
and Kuminga need to get to the line to generate a lot of efficient offense. So I think
Yep.
low fouls environments are generally good for the Wolves, which is why I think
Yep.
they've elevated in the playoffs the last 2 years, just
Yep.
generally.
With that, so it sounds like I think they're just going to take care of business. I think they get it done tonight, and then I think they'll probably handle it at home.
I think so.
I'm not betting on it. I don't think I might.
I in the second half at halftime of this game, I gave out to subs the Wolves second half line. And my thought process, which I articulated when I said it in our Slack or in our Discord, was like, look, the Warriors are having to play things so tight, and they're playing guys a ton of minutes that are not used to playing a ton of minutes. Like Jimmy's used to playing a ton of minutes, Buddy Hield, Pajemski, Dre even. And these guys aren't Kuminga. They're not used to playing 35 plus minutes a night out there. And Jimmy's been battling through stuff. They've been playing this condensed schedule. They had the play in. I think that's all going to potentially catch up. I think, this is the turning point. This is the game 4 that they got to get at home. But I'm expecting, I look at that box score and I see 40% from 3. I see Kuminga and Jimmy shooting over 50% and scoring really efficiently. And I see 97 points. And I think, oh man, what happens? What happens if you don't get all 3 of those things? Then are we talking like 88 points? If we're talking like 88 points, like the Wolves got to be able to score more than that. So I'm with you that I think the Wolves close this out in 5.
Yep. All right. So let's talk about minutes here. Let's talk about a coach that's familiar with it. And the Celtics got back on track in a big way. They go 20-40 from deep, hit 57% of their catch and shoot attempts, 12 of 19 wide open. That was a big. They missed all their ones there. But then Boston kind of controlled it. They had the fast break edge. They killed them in transition. 2.3 points per possession in transition from the Celtics. Not many opportunities, but they killed them there. And they took it taken away, which they always do. Transition stuff. The Knicks have not been able to get anything there. Very tough. A lot to go through here. I think the biggest thing that jumps out to me when I was looking at the stats was how bad the Knicks starters have been. They are really bad. Over 68 minutes, they are minus 20.7 in this series. They're pulling great comebacks. We'll talk about Mitch Robinson here. But yeah, where are you at on this series? Anything that the Celtics did in game 3 other than just like hashtag make shots? Anything that you noticed on how the Celtics got back on track here?
I think they were a little bit more comfortable with Peyton Pritchard, which is one of the adjustments that I said after game 2 that I felt like they need to play more Peyton Pritchard. If the Knicks are going to switch everything and you're going to get into isolation stuff and then bring late help and whatnot, you need a little bit more confident shooting / playmaking out there. And Peyton Pritchard has shown ability to hold his own defensively in the playoffs the last few years, and the Knicks don't have a ton of guys that are really going to target him. So I thought that he played great, 23 points, 5 of 10 from 3, 8 of 16 overall. Ends up playing 35 minutes in this one as Drew Holiday gets a little bit de-emphasized in large part due to the score in the second half. I thought that was a nice adjustment in wrinkle, but I think it was mostly just making shots. Boston came out, played confidently, played like they weren't really afraid, to be down 2-0, that they were kind of ready to, from the tip, like they came out and they set the tone 36-20 in the first quarter, just built a big lead and then kind of coasted from there. And, I think for the Knicks, Karl-Anthony Towns hurts his finger during the game. You wonder if it's a broken hand at some point. You're like trying to figure out, is he going to be okay? We've seen him play through.
He wouldn't reveal if he got X-rays. He's like, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
And he said the quote is what it is with his hand.
Yeah.
Injury.
And he's played through a hand injury earlier in the year. Didn't affect his shooting too much. Still scored 21 and 15 in this one, but was just 5 for 18 overall. And that includes just 4 for 13 from 2-point range. So, I mean, strength and finishing from Cat when you need him to score in this series, because you're not getting the freebie transition stuff from McHale and OG that those guys like thrive on for their scoring. You need it in the half court from Jalen and from Karl-Anthony Towns. That's a concern for sure. this looked more like the way we expected the series to kind of be, this game. So when when you get that game, you're like, you immediately sort of forget about the first two games that happened. The question is, can the Knicks drag Boston back into a muddy game? And if they can, then we see the late game confidence between these two sides seems to vary distinctly. But if they cannot, like if it's going to be a non-close game, it's going to be the Celtics. Like the Knicks are not going to blow out the Celtics under any circumstance. So I think ultimately you look at this and you're like, okay, if Boston makes their shots, they should be in pretty good shape in this one. But Boston's also like they've effed around in 2 games and they found out in both of those. They got to avoid doing that 2 more times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just the lack of like ball movement from the Knicks. OG Anunoby had 19 touches in the last game. That was tied with like Craig Porter Jr. from the Cavs last night.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the stats this morning. So really, he really turned away. His minutes went down a little bit a couple games ago too, which brings me to my next point with Mitchell Robinson. We saw Mitchell Robinson kind of cut into a little bit of Josh Hart. Perhaps function of the game flow, and then OG lost a little bit of minutes as well in this series to Mitch there. But he's not making shots. He's 11 of 38 from the line in the playoffs. Obviously, it's been a huge story here. How does this play out? Does he have a chance to start? I just mentioned that bad starting lineup. I highly doubt it. But yeah, how does Mitch, who's been like I talked about the starters lineups, the 2 Mitch lineups are like plus 25 in like 14 and 10 minutes, whatever it was. Like, how can Mitch get on the court? Can he make free throws? How does this sort of play out for Mitch?
I think they just need him to play a good bit. Obviously, like Cat's injury, opens up another potential path. But can he make free throws? I don't know. But even if like offense is going to be hard for the Knicks against the Celtics, so if you can get him to 1 out of 2, 1 point per possession is not going to be too bad in this series. And if 1 point per possession also comes with fouls that are potentially getting you into the bonus for other players to shoot free throws, getting the Celtics potentially into foul trouble, I think that's all a good mix. So like, I think Thibodeau's just got to kind of swallow it and say like, okay, we got to play Mitch and we're going to deal with the consequences of it. You also kind of want the game to get mucked up in like less continuity and less rhythm if you're the Knicks, right? And so like constant stoppages and different things I think are good. I think in some of these cases, if you're playing against like a veteran team that's really worn down, you don't want this many stoppages because it's like extra timeouts that you're kind of giving the team. But I don't think that's the case with the Celtics. Like, I don't think they're super worn down from any of this. They rotated 3 guys at the end of the year. So I think the Knicks should be wanting and embracing, the hack and Mitch. And if it happens, it happens, and just kind of keep them out there and try to roll through it. They've really got to win the possession game by a big margin. They've got to win turnovers and rebounds by a good margin to be able to overcome the deficiencies that they have in 3-point shooting versus the Celtics. And, in game 3, they only have 1 more rebound. They did generate 17 offensive rebounds, in part because Mitchell Robinson had 6 offensive rebounds. Cat had another 5. They need those to stack up possessions. They turned the ball over 11 times, Boston just 8. They can't lose the possession battle against Boston and expect to win these games consistently. So I think Mitch is a key to generating extra possessions. I think Cat's hand injury is another reason for concern. So I would expect to see continued more Mitch going forward.
Yep, I'm with you. And then, like we were saying, you get the defense set on the other end. That's kind of an interesting trend from the Celtics. What it's often Knicks make, the Celtics offense is averaging 19 seconds per possession. It's been pretty crazy with this series and last series overall there. So it's been a pretty crazy trend there. I don't have too much else to add. I definitely think that Boston's perhaps in position to just like take this all the way down here. Do you have any thoughts? I think that. I think the Knicks will probably find a way to get 1. So probably thinking 6 and 7.
I'm hoping the Knicks can find a way to get 1 more because it would be really fun. I'm going to try to go to game 6. It would be really fun to see the Knicks try to close out Boston in a game 6 situation. But yeah, I'm leaning Boston in 7 at this point. I don't have enough. I think the first 2 games, the Knicks recipe is pretty shaky to rely on going forward. And I haven't seen a scenario that makes me feel like we've got a good sustainable recipe to win 2 of the next 5 games, or 2 of the next 4 games, excuse me.
All right. So with you, one last series to talk about briefly is, my God, man, that is one of the craziest house of basketball. I was watching this game like, all right, maybe the Cavs could kind of cut this to like 20. And then no, I think that the Pacers didn't miss anything in the final like 350 to just absolutely basically end their season. There's a lot of injuries which we could talk about, but what impressed you the most? I'll go first actually. Man, Rick Carlisle, dude, like what a game! We saw them play zone early in the last game when the Cavs got the win. They killed them in zone. We saw their front court guys being in screening action, screening in zone, and slipping to the basket. That was a really great adjustment. And then the other one, and it's been a big trend, man. That full court press is legit. It's taken the Cavs so much out of rhythm on offense here. So, mega credit to Rick Carlisle here. But where are you at, and what do you see from the Pacers to get such a impressive and unbelievable win? Honestly, the way the Cavs looked all year.
No, I think you nailed the things that I would comment on as well. And it's a credit also to Indiana's roster that has a lot of guard depth, that has multiple players that they can use to sort of press and annoy ball handlers. And I think, coming into this series, I would never have thought that would have been super effective against Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. And even like Mobley can handle with size, and then Ty Jerome off the bench. But Darius Garland's a little bit dinged up. Donovan Mitchell's a little bit dinged up. Evan Mobley's a little bit dinged up. Ty Jerome has lost all his confidence entirely. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, you're just seeing the disruption in the flow and how often Cleveland's stuck in late shot clock situations when they've played the whole season in kind of early and mid shot clock situations, and how much that has kind of changed the tide in the rhythm and the momentum of this series as a whole. Indiana, they just keep shooting the ball incredibly well. We're at 42% now for the series from three. This includes 57% from Miles Turner, 45% from Siakam, 55% from Nesmith, 44% from Mathurin, and 50% from Nembhard, and 50% from TJ McConnell as well from three. The only guys that are not shooting the ball well from three, Obi Toppin at 23%, and then Halliburton at 36% is like their next worst. Everybody across the board is shooting the ball really well. They're getting open looks. They're making and knocking them down. This game, the big difference from the first three games, we talked about this recipe for Indiana that seemed unsustainable in terms of giving up so many points in the paint compared to in surviving just alone on the 3-point line. Not the case in this one at all. They were making their threes, but they were getting tons of points in the paint. As you noted, some of the screening and different things that were getting, the slips that were getting them the open looks. So just a very diverse offensive team with a very good head coach that's figured out ways to sort of maximize talent. And they've got a bunch of guys who tend to raise their game in the playoffs with Nesmith and Nembhard, and Miles Turner has been really good this playoffs as well. So really, really just a statement game. If you thought like the first two games, like, okay, Indy shot the ball incredibly well. They, get this epic collapse in game two. That's the only reason they're up 2-1. Indy sort of put their stamp on, no, like we're really good. And that's why we're here. And it's been sad after a Cavs team that looked like a juggernaut during the regular season. It's been sad to see them battle all these injuries and just look like a, tainted version of themselves. Donovan Mitchell leaves at the end of the first half, is on the court for warmups going into the second half, and then does not play in the second half, does not come back out on the bench. It's like strange situation there. But it seems like Cleveland is, hanging on for dear life. They played really well shorthanded in game two until the end, and they played with a lot of competitiveness in game three. So they still have two of the final three games if they get there at home. So I don't want to say that it's completely dead for a Cavs team that's been very good all season, but that game four felt like it was a soul stealing game from Indy. It felt like we're slamming the door shut. And obviously Donovan Mitchell's now injury looms large.
Yep. And just a couple stats from the first half. I think the craziest stat was the assists. Indiana 25 assists in the first half to 3 for the Cavs. That was one of the crazy stats. I think all the Pacers except Halliburton made their threes in the first half. Yep. And Halliburton only missed 2, went 1 and 3. So I think it's 8 of 11. Like, oh my God, just absolute beatdown, man. So like you said, Donovan Mitchell injured, Darius Garland still dealing with stuff. Mobley hasn't looked the same overall. I don't know. I think it's over, man. It's going to be 5 or 6 at this point. I don't really have much to say. I just think it's really run up really poorly for the Cavs with this injury stuff. Donovan Mitchell's going to get an MRI. He said he wants to try to play. He's going to be a game time decision. We're finding out as we're recording right now. I feel really bad for the Cavs, man. They were so exciting all year, to see them like just go away like this feels really bad.
You think it's over in 5?
Kind of. I don't know. I don't think Donovan's gonna be healthy enough. 5 or 6. Yeah. I think it's but it's too much of an uphill climb. Indy's playing too well, man.
Yeah. I'm still holding out hope. The Cavs are just so
Yeah.
good in the regular season. I know it's like a broken version of them right now, but I'm still holding out hope that they can kind of make this ultimately a series. But yeah, it's going to cause a lot of re-examination of what this Cavs season was and whether their regular season success can ultimately turn into postseason success. I know we had those concerns a couple of years ago when they got knocked out in the first round by a Knicks team that they were more talented than, that they just seemed to play small against. It seems like the Cavs just don't seem to have that next gear in the postseason. I mean, we know Donovan does. We've seen it on occasion from Mobley and Allen, but not consistently. And Garland's been dinged up. So I'm hopeful. I'll go Pacers in 6. I'll go that they force it back to Indy and close it out there. But I'm hoping that the Cavs can look a little bit more like the regular season version we saw, because it was really fun to watch them all regular season.
Maybe just they're kind of already doing it. They're already bringing more people up with the ball. We're seeing like Max Strus hang out in the backcourt when they're trying to push the ball up the court. So they're doing all they can. But yeah, it's too many injuries, man. Which has been a trend. We talked about how the Warriors are dead. So it's been tough. So I guess pulling back here, where you at? How do you do you have a finals pick? Do you I guess that's kind of the question. Like, how do you think this is going to kind of play out looking down the line in the next round?
I'm going to look. I know my preseason prediction was Boston and OKC. I'm trying to
pretty sure mine was
which direction I went with as the winner. I went Boston. You went I went Boston over OKC, and I believe you went Boston over OKC as well. I would say at this point I would be picking OKC over Boston. I feel like Kristaps Porzingis' health is really kind of a turning point for me in deciding between those two teams ultimately. As I noted before the series, when I once again bet against Indiana, they have just stolen money from me for the last 2 playoff runs. And so I don't want to discount how well Indiana has played. And I think they can absolutely make that a more competitive series than last year without Halliburton when they got swept. If that's what we're looking at, if we get there. But I think that's the direction that looking at the grand scale of things in these 4 series, I'd say Boston, from a shot quality perspective, has strongly outplayed New York and has kind of run bad on shooting, and New York has run great in clutch situations. That seems like a very unstable recipe to rely on going forward. Indiana has sort of done some similar, where they've run really good on shooting and they've really closed out late game situations. But Cleveland looks so banged up that looks like it's going to be tough to kind of overcome. And I think those two teams are playing more closely, to maybe Indiana's small favor as opposed to Indiana big favor. Whereas Boston, New York, I feel like it's playing to Boston big favorite, but the shooting has been so bad that it's kept New York in. And then Denver OKC, I think, has a little bit of the Indiana Cleveland vibes to it, where OKC is shooting the ball so poorly that it's keeping Denver kind of close into this, but Denver is also getting a little bit worn down. And I think OKC is just going to be able to close that out. And then I think Minnesota, you got the injury situation with Steph that I think is really, unfortunately, I think our analysis, I think we took Wolves in 5 or 6. I think our analysis was probably
6.
off in that one. I think if Steph was in, I think the Warriors would be in really good shape in this series. But I think the Wolves are getting a little bit bailed out by the Steph injury.
Yep, definitely. It should be if our analysis applied to now, we'd be Wolves are for sure taking the rest of these. Okay. All right, so that'll do it. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll have I don't think anything will be wrapped up. Anything want to mention to get us out of here?
We might. I mean, we might see, maybe Indiana will have moved on at that point.
Oh, yeah, Indiana.
We could see Minnesota have moved on at that point. They play Game 5 on Wednesday. So we could have a couple series down, but we'll see at that point. But before we get out of here, did want to note that we have launched the WNBA product for Establish the Run. This will be our first edition of the WNBA projections. It's a little bit different than the NBA DFS product just because the WNBA schedule isn't kind of as consistent with games, with big slates. So we'll have shows and top plays for every day that there's 3+ weekday evening games. The product is going to be led by our projections team. and it'll be the same team that's been working on the NBA stuff, working on the WNBA side of things. WNBA season starts on Friday night, is the opener to the WNBA season. So as the NBA playoffs wind down, it'll be WNBA regular season time kind of loading up. It's a really fun league. It's a fun DFS experience. So we'll be selling both a DFS package and a full stat projections package. For those interested, you can check out the subscribe page for WNBA packages over at establishedrun.com.
Yeah, the Valkyries home game is part of the reason why the Warriors get an extra day off there. So
yeah,
appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you guys next time.